So for lesson 14, we're going to be talking about symbols, and we're also going to talk a little bit about the Adobe Cloud libraries. So you do need to download 2 documents from the module for this lesson. So I'm going to go ahead and flip over to Illustrator, and I'm going to come up here to open, and I'm going to find the 2 documents that we need, which is this regular lesson and then the lesson 14 libraries, and hit open. Okay, so I'm going to come up here and I'm going to do 2 things. First, I'm going to go to Window and Workspace, and I want to make sure I'm in Essential Classics. I'm going to reset my Essential Classics just to make sure we're on the same page. And then also I'm going to come up to View, and I'm going to do Fit All in Window for now. Okay, so working with symbols, there's a couple different ways you can do this. There are some pre-made symbols, and then you can also create your own symbols. So for the pre-made symbols, what you can do is come over here, and this little clover right here, these are going to be where you're going to find your pre-made symbols. So the first thing we're going to do is add some pre-made symbols onto this t-shirt. So you're going to go to Libraries right here, come all the way down to Tiki, and we're going to find the one that looks like a guitar. So it's right here, it's kind of a blue guitar. And to put them into our image, all we have to do, or into our artwork, all we have to do is click on them and drag. And I want you to go ahead and do that for 2 of them. Okay, so we're going to have 2 guitars right here. I'm going to kind of push them up a little bit. Okay, so we have 2 guitars right here. Now, you whenever you first pull these out, whatever adjustments we make to one will automatically happen to the other. So we're going to start off by doing that. Now, you can change things like the size, the rotation, or if you want to flip them, and it won't affect the other. But if you're making like actual adjustments to the symbol itself, the color, if you're going into them to make any changes, then that's when it's going to change both of them, okay? So like I said, if you wanted to do something like shrink one, see it only affects one. Okay, I'm going to Control Z and get back to the normal. So what we want to do is we want to change the color of the front of this one. First, I'm going to flip it because I want them back to back. So make sure your right one's selected, and then right here in the Properties panel, I can just click on it and flip it. So if you look right here, you'll see it says symbol static. That means what I was just saying, where that we'll fix both of them at the same time. So we got it selected. I'm going to zoom in so you can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to change the color. So I'm going to go into isolation mode. So I double clicked with my selection tool right on this guitar, and it's going to say, you're about to edit the symbol definition. Any edits to the symbol will be applied to all instances. Do you want to continue? That's what I'm talking about. So I'm going to hit OK. Now it flips it back over. It's not permanent. It's just because that's the way the symbol originally looked. Now I can grab my direct selection tool, and I'm going to click on the front of this guitar, and you can see it puts the little lines around it, the little paths around it. And I'm going to come over here to my fill color, and I'm going to change it to a light brown. Feel free to change yours to whatever color you want for this. Okay, so I've got it changed. Now I can either, go out through this arrow, or I can hit escape and go out. I'll just do the arrow for now. So now you can see that I have both my guitars are brown. So next, what I want to do is I want to make some changes only to this one. I don't want to make it to both of them. So I need to change it from static. Whenever I showed it to you earlier and it said static up here, I need to change it to dynamic. So what I'm going to do is come over here, and I'm going to select it right here. Make sure that's selected. See a little box around it. And I'm going to come to this symbol options right here. And I'm going to change it to what's called dynamic. So I'm just going to click on it right there. Okay, and now I want to point out one thing. People get a little nervous right here when it says export type movie clip, because we're in Illustrator. You don't need a movie clip. This will not affect anything unless you're going into, you're going to move these over into animate. So just go ahead and leave it. It's not of any importance right now. Okay, so dynamic, hit OK. Now I can go in and I can make adjustments to them individually. So this comes in handy, like if you put something in static and you're working on the entire project, and then you need to start making, and so you know, like everything, we need it, all of them to be brown on the front. We want them in static, and then we can switch them over to dynamic. And I can come in here and I can use my direct selection tool. I can click this little back part of this guitar, and I'm going to change it to a darker brown. Or in your case, you can change it to whatever color brown you want. And then I can deselect it, and you can see now it affected this one, but it didn't affect that one. Next, we're going to use a symbol that we're going to create a symbol off something we've created. So right here in this tiki, I'm going to go ahead and close this panel just to make more space, and I'm going to zoom back out. Now, you can come up with your own vector drawings in this program. So, you know, I'm going to use, I see this little flower here, but I'm going to say I create my own little flower. I want to make the little center of the flower and the petals, and I want to use it all over the front of my shirt. But then later I would want to go back and change the petals, like make some blue, some pink, another flower yellow. You can do that, but you just need to make one symbol to begin with. So for this example, we're just going to we're going to pretend that we drew this little note here. I'm going to grab my selection tool. I'm going to select this little note here, and we're going to pretend this is the note that we made. Now all you have to do is select it and then click on this new symbol right here. And I'm going to change this one to note 1, just because it has one note to it. And you can leave it as dynamic. You can change it to static if you want to be able to change them all individually. For this purpose, we're going to leave dynamic just because we're going to change them all the same. Going back to my flower reference though, if later on I wanted to be able to change them and change the petals on them so I have multiple different flowers, but they all look basically the same, I would just change it to static right here and hit OK. Now, again, all I have to do is drag some of these over here, and I want you to drag 4 of them over here. Okay, let's actually drag 5. So I can show you one other thing in a minute. So we'll drag 5 down here, and we'll put this one down here. Okay, so we have our notes up here. If you want to add more notes later, feel free. We're just going to start with these 4. Now, we made a new symbol by doing that, but you can also make a new symbol by selecting it and simply not doing that, selecting it and then moving it up and putting it into the symbol. So you can see this little blue line comes up. I'm just going to drop it right there at the end, and I'm going to name this one Note 2. Again, I'm going to leave it dynamic, and I'm going to hit OK. You'll now see it's up here. And again, we can just simply drag them over here and drop them as we want. But what if I didn't want to drag? I actually realized that I had 2 of these notes next to each other, and I just wanted to change one. I can click on the one that I want to change and come right here to replace symbol. And I can do drop down, and I can symbol that I actually wanted it to be. So it's a nice, easy, fast way to be able to change something. You can also duplicate the same way as you duplicate. We've duplicated in the past in other lessons. You just press Alt, click it and press Alt and drag it. Go. So now we just kind of have our notes everywhere. We can also change a color. I'm going to come right here on this one. I want to change these double notes to be more of a blue to kind of match the blue and make it pop. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to send it into isolation mode. Again, it's going to ask me if I want to change them all. I'm going to say yes. Select it again. Come over here. Or even, you know, if you knew you wanted this specific blue, boom, clicked on it with the eyedropper. And now when I go out of it, they're all blues. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is talk about the libraries. So how libraries come in handy is if you're working between either multiple documents in Illustrator, or maybe you're working in Illustrator and After Effects and you need to be able to share some of the images, that you've drawn, or you need to say share text. Sometimes with text, you put certain fonts on it. You want to be able to share it between different areas. So you can do that by using these libraries. You can also share libraries with other people, which comes in handy. And I'm just going to delete these real quick while I'm talking, just so I don't get confused while I'm going ahead. So with libraries, you can share them with other people. So you and your partner are at your own houses, but you need to work on a project together. You draw these amazing music notes right here. Your partner needs to be able to use them on the project that they're working on as well. You can drag and drop them into your library, share that library, and then they can drag them out of their library and into their project. So you could use them on both, okay? Without like sending them to everybody. So, or I use this example all the time. These are still in here. I had to do an assignment for a invitation for a Christmas ball, and I not only had to create the invitation in Illustrator, but I had to create a little video invitation for them to put online. So I had to do that in After Effects. So I saved them in here, and I was able to just like click and drag them over. And then when I was in After Effects, I could do the same thing. Just open my library and click and drag them over. So it comes in handy. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to this document, this lesson 14 libraries document, and we're going to move some of this into our libraries so that we can use them in both places. Okay, so I'm just going to click on this rock on. I'm going to drag it over. It's going to ask, it's going to say something about the appearances because of the type of text it is. That's completely fine. I'm just going to hit OK. And you can even right click on these and rename them if you need it to. So, I can name this rock on. Oops, cancel. There you go. So now I can see it. You can do, different types of layers. So you can do like different views. So you can grid them or do a list. Then I'm going to drag this one over and put it in here. And I'm just going to rename this one amp. And then the pick, and I'm going to drag it over. Now, the problem with the pick one, see if I drag it over, it's not getting the word. So make sure you drag across it with your selection tool and get the whole thing so it gets both. And I'm going to drag it over and drop it in here, and I'm going to right click and do rename, and I'm going to do pick. And I'm going to switch over so that I can see in my list view right here so I can see the ones I added. Okay, now I'm going to come back to my t-shirt. I'm going to zoom in a little bit just so I can see my t-shirt itself and I don't see everything else. And I'm going to add those words rock onto it. So I'm going to click right here. I'm going to drag them and put them on here. Now, when you drag them onto the t-shirt, you'll see it becomes like when you place something. So all you got to do is click somewhere and it's going to pop up. Unfortunately, the letters were already black. So I'm just going to select them and I'm going to turn mine to white. Again, if you want to turn them a different color, feel free. And I'm just going to kind of place it here in the middle for now. Then I'm going to move over my amp. So I'm going to click it, drag it out here. Again, it's going to give me that little thing. Now I'm going to resize this one because we're going to put it behind the guitars. So I'm going to get it the way I want it, about the size I want it. And then I'm going to have to go into my layers, and I'm just going to have to move that layer all the way down to the bottom, or that sub layer all the way down to the bottom of the layers. So then I have my amp in there. And then for my last one, I have this pick. So if I was to drag the pick out here, it's black. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to drag it right here onto the white. You can see it's black. You can't use the direct selection tool on it because it's a linked object. So if you and if you're having questions about something that you put in there and you're not sure if it was linked or not, you can come to your properties panel and see it says linked file right here. So if you click on it, it'll show that it's a linked file. So I can't make individual adjustments to this one. But if I wanted to make an adjustment to it, what I can do is come back to my libraries and double click on it, and it's going to open it in a panel on its own. Into a file on its own. Sorry, not a panel. Into a file on its own. Then I can come in here with my direct selection tool, and I'm just going to select it. And then I can change it to a color. So I'm going to change it right there. I'm going to change it to kind of like a bluish, but you can change it again to any color you want just because my guitars have that blue on it. And then I can close it and hit yes. And you'll see it automatically changes it right here. Okay, and then you can size this one. Oh, gotta grab my selection tool. Then I can size this one down. I can move it over here. And now it's on there. And then, you know, you can make any selections, changes to it. I kind of like the rock on to be right here, but I want the rock on to actually be kind of my top sub layer. So I'm going to pull this one down and drop it right there. But now it's behind my, so I don't like that either. I'm going to just grab the rock on and pull it to the top. There we go. So feel free to play with this, make it look like you want, change colors, play with the different symbols. If you want to create a new symbol, feel free to do that. If you have any questions, shoot me an email and I'll try and answer them for you. Otherwise, have fun.